to Buddhism in the West. The critical, skeptical mind, because Buddha himself said, my teaching has to be analyzed. You cannot take it just because Buddha said so. And I think cherishing this kind of non-subjective is very, very important. So, of course, if you are asking me, I was born in a Buddhist family, in fact a very hardline Buddhist. I was born in a Buddhist country. Everywhere you go, there is something to do with the Buddhism. You cannot escape from Buddhism, basically. You have no other choice, almost. So my projection towards Buddhism is really different. You can say maybe very biased. After many, well, you know, having said that, I try to be sober, I try to be critical, and I have actually tried to look at Buddhism. If not Buddhism, what would I do? Which spiritual path should I choose? I have tried to read even some of the Western philosophers, and from the way I pick up, again you can say I'm already influenced by Buddhist philosophy, so maybe I'm not the perfect seeker in this regard, but I tend to end up liking people like Nietzsche, right? I was reading Das Spec Zarathustra. I tend to like Nietzsche, and I've recently have this idea, probably the greatest contribution from the West to this world is not technology, not science, but it's anarchism. Because, not the political anarchism, by the way. I was just corrected by Professor Shaft here. Sort of anti kind of system thinking. And so, anyway, I'm just trying to portray my way of thinking about the Dharma. See, this is quite an interesting title, Projecting the Dharma. I don't know how to define this, because the Dharma in Sanskrit, as many of you know, also could mean the truth, among many other things. So, it's, what do you call it, oxymoron? Projecting the Dharma, projecting the truth. You are almost not allowed to project, but yet we have to. We have no choice. That's the only language we know, to project. Now, how you project, especially those who are not brainwashed by Buddhist practice, those who are here with a clear, normal mind. How you project Buddhism, I don't know. Maybe we can discuss this later. Now, I think I'm expected to talk a little bit about the film and the transmission of Buddhism to the West. And this, I feel a little bit embarrassed because just because I made 2 films, and I must confess, they both they had it's their success, but it was sort of an accidental success, and there was a little bit of a novelty side of this. You know, Tibetans are kind of endangered species, so whatever they do, even, you know, something drastically wrong, people will sort of have sympathy. So I must say I've been lucky with a film, But there are few things that maybe I can share with you. Many people ask me, why do you make film? As if, I'm doing something, what do you call it, blasphemy, sacrilegious. I think this is quite interesting to me, actually, always. Especially in the West, many people ask me. Quite shocking sometimes that they ask. Because I think in the West, this is another thing that I project. Sometimes West, and especially America, is even more morally oriented than the East. I think the value of morality is so strong here. So I guess Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, pure moral, pure, something like that, I think they categorize that. And film, limousine, sex, drugs, violence. So I guess they stereotype both angle, and I think this is why many people ask, why you as a Buddhist, and for that matter a teacher, a practitioner, making film? Well, first of all, I must say, I don't see filmmaking as something sacrilegious. I mean, and actually, there are a lot of other kind of not so wholesome things that I do, much worse than filmmaking, I think. But I don't see any conflict. To us, Buddhism is like a science. It's a study of life. It's a study of one's individual, self and how we look at the world. So since we study, we approach Buddhism as a science, and film is like a utensil. It's a tool. It's a medium. I don't see any conflict between film and Buddhism. And it is not as if Buddhism, Buddhist scriptures have actually prohibited art or any kind of symbolic or representing medium. As you have seen, there's actually a strong culture and tradition of Buddhist painting, art, and film can be just one of these new modern technology that we can use, and it's the right time, it is a very powerful medium. Now, I want to clarify something here. I think art or okay, let's say statue, for instance, the Buddha statue. Now, of course, different historians, they say different things, but I believe that actually in the early part of history in Buddhism, the actual figure of the Buddha was not really encouraged. Now, there's many different versions of stories. There's a story about how when Buddha went to the Tushita realm, his patron, King Udayana, or Udaya, I think, he was missing Buddha so much that he actually came up with the idea of a painting of the Buddha, and that may be the first ever picture or the representation of the Buddha's figure. Then there's a story about how Buddha actually himself painted a self-portrait, so to speak, and sent to Sri Lanka. But anyway, I think clearly we can understand in the early part of Buddhism, medium, especially to represent the body of the Buddha, was not very much encouraged. For instance, we see even in the, like ancient monuments like Sanchi, instead of the Buddha figure, we see like an empty throne, representing empty throne with a body tree behind, representing the Buddha's enlightenment, long bed with a body tree or sal tree behind, representing the Buddha's parinirvana, empty tree with a deer and the will, representing turning the wheel of the Dharma. I think the reason why Buddhists did not encourage the Buddha figure is got nothing to do with Buddha is so holy and divine that human beings should not or dare not come their own sort of limited idea of the Buddha's figure. I don't think it is because of that. Because ultimately, especially in the Mahayana Buddhism, like if you read Diamond Sutra, I think popularly known as the Diamond Sutra, Vajracchedika Sutra, Buddha clearly stated how the form of the Buddha is non-existent. And not only the form, even the teaching, he even asked his disciple, has the Buddha taught? And when the disciple said, no, Buddha never taught, then Buddha himself praised the student, saying that, well, now that's the right answer, this is it, Buddha never taught. And see, so ultimately, non-duality, the wisdom of non-duality is at most important. And to express that non-duality cannot be expressed, cannot be represented, cannot be symbolized, I think in the early part, especially the figure of the Buddha was not so much encouraged. But as the time goes by, of course, the human mind is becoming more busy, beginning to rely more and more on symbols. Then, of course, there's lots of Buddhist figures, bodhisattva figures. But I would still say they are symbolic and they are representing the Buddha's figure, not really reproducing, so to speak. They are representing the Buddha's figure, but not really reproducing the Buddha's figure, because the point is this: when you see, this is going back to the projection. I don't know how a Western academia, a member of academia, would look at the Buddha. Maybe for them, he was a great thinker, revolutionarist. He was a very, maybe revolutionarist. But so he, around that time, in the Hindu dominating society, he was really special. But his body it's like any other revolutionarist, like Che Guevara, Plato, Socrates. They don't have to look good. They can still wear their beret, they can chew cigar. So Buddha, for the ordinary people, Buddha's body does not have to look good. He was a great revolutionarist. He was a great founder of a great system, and that's it.